got it locked to the Defected Radio Show. This is our house and our house music. House music. House music. House music. House music.
Sam Divine here, and you're locked into a very special takeover show as we celebrate 20 years of Defected. And as our saying goes, house music all life long, and we'll be chatting about that a little later on. Now I'm sat with my very, very, very special guest, the man who is the undeniable heartbeat behind Defected, my mentor and good friend, the one and only Simon Dunmore is in the house. Easy, Si, how you going?
I'm doing good, Sam. How are you? Back from your tour?
Yes, absolutely.
Still jet lagged?
Jet lagged, but loving life still. Brilliant. Well, I'm going to be talking to Simon throughout the whole show and getting the lowdown on each track. It is going to be fun fact central, guys. So for the next 90 minutes, we're going to be looking back over the last 20 years of the label, the records, the parties, and everything in between. A hell of a lot to get through, so let's crack on. We've got music on the way from MK, Kings of Tomorrow, Blaze, Dennis Ferrer, and loads more. Some house music royalty right there. But right now, let's take it back to where it all began, 1999, and the release of Soulsearcher, Can't Get Enough. Simon, tell me, how did this record come about?
Well, it's a story well told, but for the 20th anniversary, I believe it's worth telling again, actually. So I was at a label called AMPM. It was a very successful label. We had a number of top 10 hits, Alternate 3 and Moose T Horny, and we did all the remixes for Janet Jackson, The Police, etc, etc. And so I got offered the opportunity to start my own label, and I'd been working with the guys from Soulfuric Records, Mark Pomeroy and Brian Tappert, and this record came along. It's called I Can't Get Enough by Soulsearcher. It was actually an instrumental when we first heard it, and I spoke to them and said, can you put a vocal on it, because I think this record has real potential. They put the vocal on it, we took it to radio, it got extensive radio play, it sold over 100,000 copies, was number 8 in the UK pop chart, and it was a great way to start the label. And I believe that this record still stands up today. It gets played today, it gets a great reaction. The fact that it's 20 years old just shows that it set the tone in a really, really good way.
Defected. Coming out of Soulsearcher and Can't Get Enough, and into this one now, the year of 2000, and we have ATFC and Bad Habit, a record that samples Shaka Khan, I Know You, I Live You, and Jenny Burton, Bad Habit. Simon, how did disco influence house? And I remember, do you remember you and I drove to Switzerland? It took us 13 hours when the ash cloud erupted, and you called me at 11 o'clock at night and you were like, right, we're driving to Switzerland, and you gave me a disco lesson.
So basically, disco is the kind of, I don't know, how would you describe it? The father of house music. I believe that the evolution of dance music went from disco into house, and it was the introduction of technology. I mean, disco is very much a 4/4 beat. House music is very much a 4/4 beat, but obviously technology made it very syncopated and very programmable. That, and it's well documented, the introduction of technology, the way people felt at the time, and obviously the association with drugs, ecstasy at the time, all of those things coming together to create house music back in, like the mid-80s in Chicago and Detroit. And then, it went on to Ibiza and the Summer of Love in the UK, 1988. So that was what we talked about, and I played you all those records that influenced me back in the day.
You did, literally, and we ate like about 10 bags of Haribos along the way as well.
You did, not me.
Both.
No, I think people probably think it's me.
So you've managed to get the balance of the influences of heritage music while also always looking forward, and you seem so easily to nail that balance. Has that always been like a conscious effort for you?
No, I don't believe it's conscious or an effort. For me, it's always been about playing a cross-section of records, never about playing one sound or sticking to one thing. You would play a good old record next to a great new record. And it's just about programming your night in a way that just keeps it interesting for the dance floor, keeps it interesting for yourself, giving people enough moments for them to be engaged and having an amazing experience when you're DJing to them, but at the same time educating them and introducing new music. And to me, that is what DJing is all about. It's not about upfront and unknown records all night long. It's not about hitting people over the head with classics all night long. It's just about picking the right record at the right moment, looking at the dance floor, and giving people the time of their lives and think, memories to walk away with.
Right, well, let's hear it right now. This is ATFC with Bad Habit, the ATFC Club Mix from 2000.
Oh
Johnny Corporate with his incredible anthem Sunday Shoutin. Hit us up at Defected Records on Twitter and let us know what your earliest Defected memory is. What record holds a special place in your collection? Send us a tweet and hashtag house music or lifelong. We want to hear from you. So Simon, 2000, obviously a very, very good year for Defected and house music. Did you know the records were going to be standout classics at the time, or is that just something that comes with maturity of a record?
I believe that house music probably has more longevity and creates probably more classic moments than most genres within dance. So, I mean, you know, if you look at the labels that, you know, you can still go back and you can play a record from Strictly Rhythm, or you can go back and play a record from Nervous, and they will still stand up on the dance floor today. And normally it's because they've been influenced by something. So if you take the record Johnny Corporate, it samples an old funk record. All the records that we've played, actually, house music is really good at borrowing from inspirational kind of genres of music. In this case, in all the cases here, it's disco. And I think that just gives it that kind of connection and that emotional connection with people, and it just stays with them. So you don't know that a record is going to be a classic, but and they're not, sometimes they're not classics all the time. Sometimes they come in and out of being, like, you know, the flavour. So at the moment, obviously there's a huge disco revival. All of these records sound amazing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, something else will be in vogue and maybe they'll sound a little bit dated, but at this moment in time, they all sound really fresh to me.
Absolutely. And to me and to everyone else who absolutely love Defected. So another instrumental here to play, coming from G Club, a Latin influence track, one of your all-time favourites, I hear, Simon. What does the track mean to you, and why was that one signed?
You know, sometimes you just have this kind of intuition about records, and I remember hearing that record. It was probably like January or February of the year, but it just sounded like it could be a Balearic record. It just sounded like it would sound amazing in the sunshine. And, you know, it had that kind of flamenco, Latino kind of guitar. The production values were amazing. I mean, Gerald Elms, who produced the record, kind of would help Roger Sanchez in the studio do his mixes back in the day. So he knew how to craft a great record. And again, it just has that disco breakdown in the middle, and it just changes the mood, but then it goes back to being Balearic again. It's a very unique record, and it just stood out in Ibiza that summer. It absolutely smashed it.
also that in the background, Kings of Tomorrow, and finally, which I probably have to say is my favourite ever Defected release. What have you got to say about that record? I know you've probably got a lot to say about it that hasn't already been said. How did that one come about?
It was just a record that grew on you, you know, and you could see the reaction on the dance floor. People really took to the lyrics. The lyrics of that record are absolutely amazing. And I was actually thinking about, I mean, lots of people say to me it's the greatest house music vocal of all time. And I think that probably Robin S. Show Me Love probably pips it.
Yeah.
Because that, you know, I hear that record and you see the reaction to that record, it still gets played. And people go, oh, it's a bit cheesy when you play Show Me Love, or it's a bit cheesy when you play Finally. But they create real moments on the dance floor. And I think Finally is up there. The difference is that Robin S was a hit. Finally was never a radio hit. It's just an underground vocal anthem.
And the fact that it's still, I mean, I've been pulling it back out in my sets for the last kind of couple of years, and I remember something that you said to me. I was like, you know, how do the kids know this? And you said they don't. It's just a great record and it's hitting them at the right time. Again, you know, another timeless record.
Yeah, but I do think that because it's a record that was probably played on, you know, on Defected compilations back in the day, or Ministry of Sound compilations, and whatever, you know, and kids grew up listening to those records. Their mums and dads playing those records. I do
older brother and sisters as well.
Yeah, and so I think that the kids understand house music and have a greater depth of knowledge of house music than any previous generation of clubbers coming through. And we're seeing that on our dance floors at the moment. You know, the label has been around for 2 decades now, but the audience that we have is as young as it ever has been.
Absolutely.
And that's really hugely exciting for us as a label, because we know that we connect with the next generation of clubbers, and that gives us real longevity and a future that we can look forward to.
It gives you another 20 years.
That's yeah.
I'll still be flying the flag high in 20 years' time. So moving on to another amazing record. This one's pretty special to me too. Shakedown at Night, another huge record, and it's been remixed so many times now. What remix stands out the most for you? Because I know for me it was Mousse T, and now it's Purple Disco Machine.
We signed the record. I mean, it was a very unique sounding record at the time. The original is an electro disco record, and that actually was the version that got the extensive radio play. But the very reason we signed it was actually the Mousse T remix, because it was an absolute club banger. It was a no-brainer to play. From the moment you heard that record, you were like, I can't wait to play this on Saturday night. It's going to rock the floor. Then we commissioned the Kid Cream remix, and I remember that coming in. And back in the day, your music was delivered on a DAT tape. It wasn't transferred. You had to wait 2 days to get a mix. It arrived. I remember putting it in the player, putting it on, and just absolutely just sitting there with the biggest smile on my face. And so that actually gave it another kick. And the record was so enormous at Clubland before we took it to the radio, and then radio just loved the original mix, which was produced by Stefan Mandrax. But I think that the introduction to the dance floor came first via Mousse T, then via Kid Cream. Ultimately, the radio version made it a hit in the UK, and it was a top 10 record. That record probably shouldn't have been a top 10 record, just because it's such a pure club dance floor record. I mean, it doesn't have any verse. It's just a hook.
Here it is then, Shakedown at Night, released in 2002.
Seems I can't deny, some days just don't feel right. I think I feel much better at night. Seems I can't deny, some days just pass me by. You know I think I feel much better. 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 I think I feel much better.
Seems I can't deny. Some days just don't feel right. I think I feel much better at night. Seems I can't deny. Some days just pass me by. You know I think I feel much better at night.
Defected, 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 defected.
Released on Fire Combo, DJ Gregory with L. So, DJ Gregory, absolute ledge in the game. How did you start working with him, and how did the relationship develop into records like Kanoa?
He's just an amazing character. He makes amazing records. They are influenced by music from Brazil, they're influenced by music from Africa, and he manages to fuse all of this together to come up with records like L or Tropical Soundclash or Kanoa. And if you ever get a chance to see him DJ, he's pretty amazing actually. Not only is his selection just absolutely first class, but he looks like he's having the best time behind the decks.
And he doesn't stop smoking.
And he doesn't.
He's always got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
So I kind of joke with him. He is the most French man I know in terms of like the way he just his accent is so strong. He smokes galores or whatever, one after the other, and but yeah, he's quite a character.
And my earlier influences from DJ Gregory is obviously from going Defected and hearing play at Pasha, and he hasn't been around for a little while on my radar, and it was amazing to see him at Croatia. It was so cool that you booked him for Croatia this summer.
Well, it's Gregory's still making records. He records under the moniker Point G now. He DJs as Point G. People still love his records from back in the day. He still has a following. And, like I was saying earlier, house music isn't all about what is in the now. It's about acknowledging great music and great records from the past. And he rocked it, and he had his fans there, and people are happy that he's going to be playing in 2019.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait. So let's move on to a classic record now, released on Slip and Slide. Now, how did the label like Slip and Slide influence Defected at the time? I know you picked up the Slip and Slide back catalogue, right, a few years ago?
Yes, we did, and we've just managed to give it some TLC, remaster it, get the artwork together and make it available to stream and download. And in terms of influence, we were influenced by all the great labels back in the day. So labels like Azuli, Slip and Slide, they're very prevalent in my record collection. I have my sections of certain labels, and Slip and Slide was available for us to get involved with, and we took the opportunity. I mean, to actually be able to work with the Blaze catalogue is personally really fulfilling, because they just made some of the best house records ever. So this is one of them. This is the Bob Sinclair remix of Do You Remember House?
I remember house when house was emotion. I remember house when it was a spiritual thing. I remember house when it was just one house. House was about love. House was about love. House was about love. House was about love. I remember house. Before house was techno. Before house was deep. I remember house when house had loops. I remember house when house was disco. Before house was disco. House was about love. House was about love. I remember house. When house was emotion. I remember house when it was a spiritual thing. House was about house before house was techno. Before house was deep. I remember house when house had loops. I remember house when house was disco. Before house was disco.
Sound Divine here with a special 20 years of Defected takeover with the one and only Simon Dunmore in the house. Now, we've already touched on some pretty epic defining moments already, and we're only halfway through the show, guys. We're getting a history lesson right here from the main man himself. So moving on to another huge record, and one that still sees so much play at parties today, Soul Central and Strings of Life. So originally a techno classic by Derek May, I believe.
Yes, indeed, and it's a funny record actually, because really it should be untouchable. I mean, really it's not a record to be messed with, the original Strings of Life. Arguably one of the records which really helped define the scene back in 87 and 88. And to go near it or to cover it, I think is kind of taboo, but it came out and then it got re-edited by Danny Krivit, and to get endorsed by one of the people that was associated and synonymous with the Paradise Garage kind of legitimised it, kind of endorsed it, gave it some authenticity, and it just got hammered by everyone. It's a classic. You can play the Derek May version, you can play the Soul Central version. Yep. The reaction is exactly the same. Yeah. It's just euphoria. It's just such a it's just upness. The record is just, absolutely, from start to finish. So to have records that are 15, 16 years old that still get played, that still sell, that still sound fresh, is what I believe kind of gives us a point of difference against our contemporaries in the marketplace at the moment.
So that record obviously sees a lot of play. I mean, certainly I've heard it tons of times at Eden in Ibiza this summer, and seeing the videos of all the confetti cannons and everything going off at Glitterbox. Why do you think that record still works so well across, say, the Defected 18-year-olds and then Glitterbox? You've got your 40-plus-year-olds, and it's just euphoria across two really kind of completely different dance floors, I guess.
Because truly great music is timeless, and truly great music is universal. It just has a broadness of appeal. It's a universally easily playable record. It's a universally easily danceable record. And it just connects.
Let's play it then. Soul Central, Strings of Life, Stronger on My Own. This one is 2004.
Alright, let's do this. Fresh from the studios to dance floors all over the globe. This goes out to all the producers, all the DJs, all the clubbers that celebrate real house music. So ladies and gentlemen, turn the volume up on your mobile device, on your tablets, on your computers, on your sound systems, and in your car. Cause you're now locked in to the one and only Defected Radio Show.
Morning when I see your face, I truly believe this is the place I'm supposed to be, 'cause you love me. Give me reason to come straight home from your love, and I can never roam, 'cause you love me. You really love me. Gift from God, and you shown me what love is. Shown me what love is.
A soulful classic there from Ron Hall and the Motherfunkers with The Way You Love Me, released in 2006 on Defected. Now, speaking of crowd pleasers, numerous people have played this one in Croatia, including both of us, right, in our back-to-back set on the main stage. That was pretty epic. Fish Go Deep and The Cure and The Calls. Tell me about this record. Now, for me, the first time I ever came to a Defected show was at Canvas in London, and she was doing a live PA of this. And literally, I was like, that's me. That's I just want to play on Defected. It was incredible. And, you know, still play it in my sets now. You know, when me and Hatcher play back to back, you know, here drop it. And he's a garage DJ. So it crosses over so broad DJ's record collections, I guess.
Yeah, it's possibly, and it's really hard to say this without offending some people, but Dennis Ferrer is probably my favourite house producer of modern times.
Same.
And I mean, it's really hard to say that when I work with people like Masters at Work, who are absolute G's, and you know, every record they've ever done is amazing. But Dennis just had that thing of marrying tech and house and soul and just getting the balance absolutely right. And he did so with The Cure and The Cause. And it's interesting for you to say that you came to Canvas, which was an event that we did back in the day. And at that time, we weren't getting radio support. Radio had decided it wasn't going to play dance music anymore. It went to an absolute extreme pop format. So we started to do events to get on the road to promote our records, to promote our DJs, because it was the only way we could get. I mean, the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Social media didn't exist, so we had to tour. And we did this big event in London at Canvas, and I believe Dennis played for us.
Yeah.
Dixon played for us actually. Tracy K performed The Cure and The Cause, and it was quite a moment. But the touring aspect of what we did was just starting to take form then, because we weren't getting the radio love that we were getting 4 or 5 years previously. We created the Defected in the House brand. We went on the road. We toured all over the UK. We started to do our events in Ibiza. We did our parties in Miami, and it was our way of just getting out there and in amongst the people that supported our music, that they, you know, in exactly the same way as they do now. It's really important to connect with your audience. If you stop doing that, I believe that you just slowly die.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so Simon, I'm going to let you introduce this one. Over to you.
This is the Dennis Ferrer remix of Fish Go Deep, The Cure and The Cause.
Sweet, that we lay. I fall.
Defected Radio Show. This is our house and our house music. House music, 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 house music,
Just coming out of another banger, Copyright. He is the Ferrer and Sydenham remix, and we are still only on year 2006. Now, Cole Cox played this at Space Closing. I was there. I literally could not believe this track was getting played at Space. Not only at Space, but by Cole Cox. That's pretty massive, right, for that track to come back out again.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I mean, again, it's a Dennis Ferrer remix.
Yeah.
I remember that Sam Holt from Copyright told me that he sent Dennis the parts and then didn't hear anything from him for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then just out of the blue, Dennis phoned him up and said, dude, I've done your mix, I'm going to send it over now. And I bet, I mean, you know, I bet when Sam heard it, he couldn't believe it. Yeah. I mean, it's just like...
Gold.
Again, it's one of those records that sounds fresh today. You could still play it. It still gets played, as you say.
Yeah.
To be endorsed by Cole Cox is testimony to that.
Absolutely.
Again, it just goes back to how important having a great catalogue is for Defected. So we can compete on contemporary records, but it's the catalogue that gives us our longevity and gives us our history. And that's why our audience is so broad, because we did have those kind of records back from 2006, 2003, and they still stand up today. So
let's squeeze this one in then. A massive favourite of mine, Julien Jarb with Swimming Places.
From the studios to dance floors all over the globe.
I feel something coming across the room, girl. I wanna lay it down, baby. Yeah. I feel the love Jones coming down. Oh. If I could only sit you down, talk to you a while. Hey. Come into my room, baby. We can have so much fun, just you and me, yeah. We can make love, baby, till the morning light. I want you till you want me, baby. I wanna love you, squeeze you, baby. Come into my room, hey. Have no care, girl, it's down your hair. Have no fear, baby. Your man is here. Come to me. I want your love. Come here, baby. I got what you want. I got what you need. Satisfaction, yeah. Hey, it's guaranteed. Yeah. And you miss things, sweet avenue. Rock and lovely. I feel it.
Sandy Rivera, Come Into My Room, released on Defected back in 2009. Now, I remember the 10-year Defected anniversary party at Ministry of Sound, and I can't believe we're sat here talking about the 20th. Now, Sandy, he has been part of the furniture, right, for the majority of that time, and I always feel that there's a massive family vibe with Defected, and the fact that all these artists are still, still with you through thick and thin. So, I mean, we all want to know why these artists still release with you and still play at all the shows. Tell us why.
I believe that moments are really important in everybody's lives, and going to a club and hearing a record for the first time and it really moving you, and just, the emotion that kind of brings when you hear a record and you absolutely fall in love with it. And then when you hear it again, 5 years later, and it's personal to you because it's a record that you discovered and maybe you fell in love to, or you had a great time with your friends or whatever. And there's, you talked about, you remember the 10th anniversary. I remember the 10th anniversary party at Ministry of Sound. I remember LT Brown performing Come Into My Room.
Yeah.
I have a video of it. I watch it on a regular basis because it's just absolute attitude and emotion and soul, and the room is going crazy, and it was a moment for me. Those things are really, really important to me. So booking those people that made those records. They make great records, amazing records. They're great DJs. They rock the crowd. They know that we're great at promotion, and the label has real, we have fans, they have fans, and I think that the combination of both those two things is really, really powerful within dance music.
Absolutely. And keeping it on that family vibe, let's touch base on Classic. Now, Classic started working with Defected in 2010. How did that relationship start?
So Classic became available, and we were offered the label, and so we came to a deal. But it was never my label; it's Luke Solomon's label. It's his baby. Him and Derek Carter founded it and did an amazing job. It had a great reputation. So I phoned up Luke and I just said, I've just bought your label and it's not my label. Will you come and work for me? Will you come and run the label again? And he accepted. And Classic is an integral part of what we do at Defected. It's our kind of unruly, misbehaving little brother. You never quite know what they're going to get up to. And it works that way. I mean, Luke is like that. I mean, me and him joke. I mean, he puts out amazing records, but some of them are a little strange. They're a little quirky. And that's what gives it the character that it has. And I love it because of that. It complements Defected. It's not the same as Defected. Doesn't try to be the same. Doesn't need to be the same. But we just get on really, really well.
That's wicked. So I'm talking of another classic, Blaze Lovely Day from 1997. And of course, put the remixes out from Am Edge and Dance, which still I think I play in every single set. So we're going to drop that now. Blaze Lovely Day from 1997.
It's a lovely day, and the sun is shining everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I see children smiling. It's a lovely day, and the sun is shining. Everywhere I go, I see children smiling. It's a lovely day, and the sun is shining.
Just an ordinary day till you came around.
I heard you say. And it's all because I heard you say. And it's all because I walked your way. And I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, and I heard you say, 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 and I heard you say. I'm just right. You got to sit tight. Close your eyes and let your head roll down. Get your feet up off the ground and let your head roll down. Get your feet up off the ground. Just an ordinary day till you came around, and now my life's on the bounce. Just like that. And it's all because I walked your way. And it's all because I heard you say. And I should've known to stay away. But I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, I heard you say, and I heard you say, and I heard you say, 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 and I heard you say.
Coming out of Dennis Ferrer, Hey Hey, DF's Attention vocal mix. Now this track is definitely in my top 3 favourite Defected records of all time. So originally released on Objectivity, so this was a defining record for Dennis and a huge moment for Defected. What was it like to see this record grow?
It's the reason it has longevity, the reason you can still play it now, and the reason it gets such a reaction is because I believe it wasn't compromised by getting extensive radio play. It was never a hit. And sometimes, as a record label, you really want to have a hit. You know, it's important for you to sell a lot of records. It's important for you to get on the radio. But the scene is full of opinion makers and people that, if you have a radio record, they think it's cheesy. They think it's sold out. They don't think it's theirs anymore. The public is aware of this record, and having a hit can tarnish a record. But Hey Hey never got radio. It was never a hit, so it remained an underground record. And Dennis thinks it's a commercial record, and he does. He has a problem playing it.
It does have a hang-up.
I actually want to bring this to people's attention that we should lobby Dennis Ferrer to play Hey Hey more, because he made a great record and he should embrace it instead of running away from it. Because a couple of people said to him, "Yo, dude, that record's a bit cheesy," and he was like, "Oh, really? You think I'm not going to play it anymore?" But you know what? The record's an anthem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Dennis should be proud of that record, and he should look after it like it's his kid.
Well, people come to see him play. They want to hear it. Remember, we made him play it in Croatia.
We did.
And we ran down onto the dance floor. People couldn't believe how quickly we got there, and it was a moment. And you should, then he ended up playing Fish Go Deep, and I can't remember, did he play Mind Your Step, all back to back, and the crowd was just go wild, including you and I.
DJs have this thing about not playing their own records, which I just can't quite come to terms with. Yeah. When I play out other people's records for sure, but people come to see me and they come to see you because of our association with Defected, and they expect to hear records of that ilk, of that sound, etc. So D, come on man, get your shit together.
Exactly.
Play Hey Hey more often.
Sort it out. So this is definitely a record that makes me smile. Ten Snake and Coma Cat.
heart's all in my hand. Still I was away from my little room. Guess I gotta go back soon. Other people's lives, all the long goodbyes. Watching in the mirror with longing in my eyes. Just like you. Just like you, yeah. Just like you. Just like you, just like you. They're looking right through me. Just like you. Just like you, baby. They look right through. I can't believe it. Just like you. Just like you, just like you. I can't believe it. No, no, no. How can you change your mind? Look right through me all the time. I'm gonna give you every part of me, but you just wanted to be free, yeah. They look like you, they're looking right through me. They look like you, they're looking right through me. They look like you, they're looking right through me. I'm wondering, baby, am I a piece of glass in your mind?
A number one record for Defected with the MK dub mix. But today we play you the original Storm Queen and Look Right Through, a defining moment for the label site, as you spoke about earlier. And on the subject of MK, he's been an artist that you've worked with for many years now. His career longevity is unique. Why is that?
MK is the person, whether it's deliberate or it's just natural, he is the most personable DJ that I think I've met.
Agreed.
From the moment he started DJing, and he never DJ'd back in the day, not extensively like your Rogers and your Todd Terrace and your Masters at work. When he started DJing like around about 2011, 2012, that was him DJing for the very first time.
He was with his brother, right?
He played at the Horse and Groom pub.
Yeah.
Opposite the office in Shoreditch to 150 people, and it was a great gig. And I think that the people, the clubbers, the fans broke MK.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, he is an incredible producer. You know, from back in the day, from his Jodeci mix, from his Police remix, from his own records like Burning and Always. And I want to thank you. And you know, he is an amazing producer. And I just think that he just came with a body of work. His mixes on Lana Del Rey, his mix on Storm Queen, and the Wankrama, My Head is a Jungle record. And it was a combination of great music and social media right at the beginning of social media. And he worked the crowd, he worked the kids. And I don't believe it was, I don't know, Mark Davenport, his manager, says it was his idea. But Mark Kinchin, MK, absolutely executed it to perfection. And, you know, he still has time for everyone. Even though he's as big as he is now, he still goes into the crowd. He still has time for people. And that's a really, really powerful tool to have. He did the remix on Storm Queen. It wasn't a hit initially, but, you know, he wanted a mix that he could play on his sets. So he did this extra dub, and the rest is history, really. And you know, we'll be forever grateful. And it was just, I think that you know, we always have this period every 2 or 3 years. We have a record that just smashes it and just gives us the ability to crack on for another 2 or 3 years. And Storm Queen was beyond that, actually, a number one UK record, and our second number one, because the first one was Roger Sanchez, Another Chance in 2001. Yeah. So as an independent label to have 2 UK number one pop records, again, look, I'm smiling.
I know you are. From ear to ear.
Memories, moments, so yeah.
amazing. And guys, you'll be able to catch MK playing at Printworks this New Year's Eve, and also you'll be able to catch him again in Croatia 2019. Well, we could go on for hours about all these amazing moments, but unfortunately that is it for our part 1 of our Defected 20 House Music All Lifelong Special. Join us next week for part 2, where we'll be continuing through the highlights of the last 20 years. And as always, if you want to listen back to any of the shows, head over to Spotify, Apple Music and iTunes and download the show, or subscribe to our Defected Radio playlist to keep up to date with all things radio. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Simon, thank you so much. It's an absolute honour and an absolute history lesson for me and the listeners, and thank you very much.
Defected.